nothing happens. Okay, so welcome. My name is Dan Engström. I'm an adjunct professor and head of a small business area called innovation at a company called Plan B. Felicia, you are?
I also come from Plan B, yeah, I support the work that Don does in this innovation project called Skills. Yeah, that's short about me.
Thank you. Yes, the innovation hub skills that we're working with. And today we have with us Dr. Duncan Maxwell, who's been kind enough to promise to give us the short introduction to what you are doing at Future Building Initiative and Building 4.0 VRC Down Under. Duncan, take it away.
Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much, Dan, for the invitation to come and present some of the work that we're doing. A bit of background about the Future Building Initiative at Monash University in Melbourne, Australia, and a research project that we are involved in called Building 4.0 CRC, where I coordinate the digital program of research. So I'm going to present in two components. I'll provide a bit of background to our research group and then move in to talk about the CRC research initiative. We're a relatively small research group at Monash University. There are 7 senior researchers and a small cohort of PhD candidates. But all of our research is applied. So we work with industry on issues mainly focused on construction innovation, with a specific focus on the commercialization and bridging the valley of death, as it were. Our unique selling point, I suppose, is that we use a design research methodology distinct from some of our colleagues that sit within engineering. We straddle engineering and architecture in terms of our faculty background. But yeah, our research is deliberately broad, looking into the future construction industry's tools, methods, technologies, business models, and then some of that, maybe the more traditional design aspects of product and process. But importantly, we emphasize collaboration in the way that we work, because we really look to find, I'd say, a kind of satisfactory, we strive for a satisficing, perhaps, rather than optimization. So satisficing along the construction value chain, because that value chain is diverse, and we hope to improve buildings for all. Our research is focused around 3 pillars. Broadly speaking, industrialization, the techniques, the processes, the products, a focus on sustainability and circularity of design, and the business model that underpin that industrialization. And then the digital enablers that really, I guess, unlock the promise of improved productivity in particular. As I mentioned, we're a collaboration between the faculties of Monash Art, Design and Architecture and Monash Engineering. But increasingly we collaborate with academic colleagues in IT, business and law, in order to present that holistic view of the future industry. Our origin story, I suppose we've been working in this space for nearly 10 years, and it comes from a project looking into prefabricated single dwellings, and bringing design research, working with industry partners on problems really in the mass housing sector, and stripping down houses into kitted parts, so product platforms, development of improved logistics processes and design for manufacture and assembly. And then gradually we began to look at more complex buildings, multi-residential building systems, services design. And that took us from the University of Queensland to the University of Sydney, where we expanded our focus away from off-site manufacture specifically to industrialized construction. And that was really with a new industry partnership with Lendlease, an Australian multinational contractor. I'm sure many of the viewers are familiar with. and their push into prefabrication and cross-laminated timber construction systems. And that project really focused around a number of commercial buildings within Australia, but Lendlease's global supply chain network that was seeking to increase their levels of industrialization. This broadening of our research perspective culminated in some prototype test builds and a series of exercises looking at connection designs, construction logistics, and the introduction of Bluetooth technologies to track components, as well as digital field instructions for construction staff communication on site. Modes of communication. Also, there's a stream of research focused on design configuration and architectural possibilities. So it really did have that very broad industrialized building perspective. And that project closed in 2019 with that prototyping test build exercise that I mentioned. And that was the same year that we transferred our research group from University of Sydney to Monash University, and that's when we became what you see before you today, the Future Building Initiative. And as part of that move from Sydney to Melbourne was the launch of a bid for government for Australian federal government funding, which was focused around the project that I will now move to talk about, called Building 4.0 CRC. And that sought to leverage, I suppose, a global movement for an interest in the industrialization of construction through cyber-physical systems and the promises of Industry 4.0. I mean, whether construction is at the third revolution or not is under debate, but perhaps we were able to short-circuit some of the advances in other sectors and disrupt construction more speedily, perhaps. But I'll now move to turn to Building 4.0 CRC. It is a large format research project. I'll talk about it as in an overview, what the targets of the CRC are, how it's set up, and it provides value to its partners, and then a number of projects that are underway. So really, I suppose Building 4.0, when we submitted the bid in 2019, really tapped into construction being an industry with a massive impact on any country's domestic GDP, and also in terms of employment, the human capacity that's required. But it is effectively an industry that hasn't changed substantially in the last 100 years at least. And really, as I mentioned, unlocking that potential for the fourth industrial revolution to short circuit industrialization, but particularly the digitalization of the construction industry. The CRC has a very broad remit. In many ways, I think this is necessary to transform construction. I don't believe that we can optimize any single element of the value chain, but instead I think we have to work collaboratively and collectively, whether it's material producers, operators in the supply chain, or building designers at the front end. I think that the onus is on all participants, and so that's why the CRC really is set up with that whole value chain perspective to run a series of research projects into a number of these areas, and really focused on introducing more of a platform-based mode of working, distinct from project-based legacy modes of working that traditional construction is familiar with. We see there being emergence of obviously product platforms, but also higher order digital platforms that have ways of coordinating the construction value chain in new and unique ways. And that is not just within the traditional design, build, and operate aspects of the industry, but in terms of how we talk at the front end in sales and stakeholder engagement, but also in the back end disassembly, building reuse. It's a large, as I mentioned, a large format project. There are 3 university partners and around 28 industry, governmental bodies, professional advocates that are involved, and trying to establish a partner network that operates across the whole value chain, but not in competition with one another. Because the thinking is if we can demonstrate change within a slice of the value chain, then perhaps that sends a strong message to the rest of industry. And really focused around new efficiencies, productivity, improved buildings themselves, but also I think increasingly the people and culture of construction itself, the human capacity that drives industry forwards. We have a number of targets that are signed up to with the Australian federal government. I'll allow you to read these in detail if you are watching this online and would like to pause. But these are aspirational targets that we will seek to deliver by 2027. We were successful in the award in 2020, got underway, and I'd say for the last 12 months have been operating a number of projects. We seek to bring together an R&D ecosystem. Primarily, there are these projects, traditional research projects in many ways involving PhDs, but increasingly the CRC is looking to provide a role of education advocacy and lighthouse projects that act as test builds to demonstrate change in material, concrete ways. Generally speaking, the research is organized into 4 streams: digital, industrialization of building, sustainability, and then sectoral issues that sit within that people and culture of industry basket. We have, I'd say now, this slide may be slightly out of date, but we have around 25 to 30 active research projects that are underway, and really looking at a number of issues, whether it's critical path, how we coordinate projects and transform the industry and that project management perspective, or looking into planning approvals, front-end issues, tracking of construction materials at the back end for supply chain provenance, and increasingly these two of the university research groups, and provide a collaborative vehicle for us to enact change in the industry more widely. So that is really a whistle-stop tour through Building 4.0 CRC and our background as a research participant within that at the Future Building Initiative of Monash University. Thank you for your attention, and I will stop my screen sharing now, and yeah, I'm very happy to open up to any questions that you might have, Dan or Felicia.
Thank you, Duncan. It really does look like there is a lot more that you can tell us if we had given you the time. But I guess the online resources are plentiful.
That's right, yes. The Building 4.0 CRC website has recently been updated, so this is a really great time. It's just been relaunched. I'd say during COVID, there was a lot of that establishment work phase, and in the last month it has just been relaunched with research directories, comprehensive project listings. Nice. Of course, I'm always happy to take questions from interested parties about the research content. But obviously, I really appreciate that people's time watching YouTube videos can be limited. But it really is a snapshot. It's in a way hard to communicate that holistic view. But I do feel it's incumbent upon the construction industry to look for these collaborative R&D opportunities, such as the CRC is one example of how we might do that. I'm sure there are examples similar in Sweden. We're aware of some initiatives underway in the UK, the US, but it really is one way in which the government funds research here, and our industry funds research as well.
All right, thank you. So is this, do you think, what you're doing a result of a sense of urgency in the Australian construction sector, or is it something that is based on sort of the insights of a handful of individuals?
Maybe if I can have a bet both ways. I think that it's not the individuals, but I would describe them as market leaders, so companies that are interested in change. So collections of individuals, perhaps, but leading companies that have their eye on global developments, have their eye on digitalization, changed techniques. When we think of industrialized building, and marry it together with new digital technologies. I think there's some foresight perhaps required in that shift from traditional working practices. Some businesses, I'd say, get it. Some perhaps need to be shown. And yeah, the CRC is the result of, I would say, a few key industry partners, some research groups that have a track record coming together and offering up a pathway to change. Yeah.
Right. So if you're from Northern Europe and interested in getting involved somehow, is that possible at all, or?
Yeah, well, yeah. So the CRC is established primarily from an Australian perspective. Obviously, the government funds research to benefit Australia. However, we already have some international participants, particularly around our scientific and industry advisory board, and also in terms of company connections. We're certainly always interested to whether they act as case studies or best practice examples or more formalized research collaborations. I'd say that is something that as we come out of COVID at the start of 2022, we've spent a long time in the startup phase of the CRC, getting in place systems, getting those initial scoping study projects up and running. And the CRC is now turning its attention back to the international context, and is really interested to hear from interested parties, find ways of collaborating one way or another, and we definitely are interested to hear. And every CRC, that's something important to stress, is that every CRC runs as its own unique organization. So there are the Australian government funds CRCs into mining, into beekeeping, honeybees, really quite unique focus areas, and everyone is established with unique principles. So there's no single format, and so those pathways for collaboration, I would say, are similarly diverse. And it's something that certainly the CRC executive team, like I said, I contribute into that as a research program leader, but it effectively runs as a collaboration business. So we're setting in place mechanisms to help and explore collaborations in that regard. So it's a moving space, but very interested to hear from contacts.
Good. I'm sure that there will be colleagues out there from Sweden who are interested. And the CRC initiative sounds very much like the Swedish Strategic Innovation Program initiative, where smart built environment is maybe the main one for us. So, okay, what have we forgotten? Felicia, Duncan, anything else?
I don't think I have anything to add. There was a lot of information, so if I have any questions, I will get back to you.
Right, and Duncan's email address was up on the screen a little while back. So I'm
always aware that people can rewatch videos and press pause on slides.
Right.
Like I said, it's really just a taster for the work that's being done. I encourage you to look into the website building4.0.org, all written as text but with the number 4, or alternatively just Google Building 4.0 CRC and head to the website. We're all listed there. The Future Building Initiative's website is also available through Monash University, or can be even followed on Instagram. So we're looking always to find interesting collaborations, and I've always enjoyed talking with Sweden. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Well, we call it a morning from our end, and an afternoon or evening your end. Thank you very much, Duncan.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.